Hi, and welcome to Season 2 of Big Sound Small Town, the podcast that spotlights the talented and diverse musicians in small towns and communities. This season we're branching out to include the community of people who make it possible for musicians to be able to perform their music, the producers, the recording engineers, the venue owners, and many others, and as always, the small town musicians. Remember, small town doesn't mean small talent. Hear their stories.
I was so self-centered, I ignored your path. I was drowning in my sorrow. Then all of your grace poured down on me, and you showed me there's tomorrow. I give it all to you, I give it all to you, Jesus. I give it all to you, I give it all to you, Jesus. You bring a grown man down to show him love. Your plan is greater than ours. The only true God, I worship you. Your name will make believers out of doubters. I worship you, I worship you, Jesus. I worship you, Jesus.
Today on Big Sound Small Town, my guest is contemporary Christian artist Mike Mckinnish. Welcome to the show, Mike.
Glad to be here. Glad to be here.
All right. Now, these days you're a Christian musician.
Yes, I am.
Did you start out that way?
No, I did not.
Well, now, how did you start?
It's a long story. I could probably tell you pretty quick.
No, let's don't do the quick version of it.
Well, I was bartending out at Ichabod's uptown.
Yeah.
And that was during the time when Scott and all them first started. Scott Moss had just graduated
Right.
from Gardner Webb. And, his crowd was down there on Fridays and every other Friday or something. And that's kind of when it felt like right shortly after that is when the music scenes it was building up.
Yes,
in
I
Shelby.
remember. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was.
As about the time frame. Well, long story short, I went home and was hanging out. I was living uptown Lafayette Street Apartments, and I was sitting out, and a buddy of mine, Dale Walker, who had a degree from Gardner Webb, he was actually real big into opera, but he was also a musician.
Okay.
He made a lot of side money, playing shows and stuff uptown.
Right.
Well, we were out singing, and I started singing with him one night, and he was like, "Man, you should start singing." Well, about 2 days later, I went and bought a guitar, and about 6 months later, I was recording my first CD. I mean, it went,
really?
It went pretty fast.
Now, did you not have any before that any musical background?
No,
that's
no,
pretty
no.
cool. Did you sing before that?
No.
Wow.
It was 2006, around January, is when I picked the guitar up and we started playing in about July.
Wow.
But we did some Dave Matthews stuff,
Right.
A few covers here and there, but majority we focused on our own music. We had a lot of original music in
From the very beginning.
From the very beginning, yeah. I would sit down and start writing, and then next thing you know, we had enough for 3 or 4 CDs, and finally the guys we brought in. It was kind of funny how it all kind of started. It was literally these kids from Lincoln, and they were all looking for a lead singer. And next thing you know, through people talking, I was going uptown playing here and there, and then got up with these guys, and we all started playing together. And Blake Putnam, he was the bass player, and Brendan Maness was the drummer. Zach Brown, not the famous Zach Brown, but the other Zach Brown from Lincoln, he was the lead guitar player. We played for a while with them. Started off, and
Did you guys have a name during that time?
that was Common Collective.
Oh, it was then.
That's what we started Common Collective
right.
with. All right, what happened was Blake ended up taking a program in Nashville, where he was playing with all the bands uptown in the circuit.
Right.
And and so the next thing you know, we were looking for a bass player. Well, that's when John Goriello came into play. John Goriello heard about us and seen us play a few times, and he wanted to be a part of it. Well, he was a bass player with a degree from Berkeley, so
Right.
he had a real strong background in music, and his dad had a really big, strong background in music. His dad spent a lot of money on a studio
That's great.
inside of Ultimate Textiles, which is in Rutherford, nobody knows about. But anyway, it's once we got him, he introduced me to Stephen Petit, and then from Stephen Petit, we brought in Vince McClooney on the drums. And Vince, he grew up at Light Oak Baptist Church, and his dad is the preacher out there, so he grew up playing drums in church.
Okay.
And then once we got Vince, it was kind of all funny. We started getting better because I was trying to surround myself with the best musicians that were available.
That's the best way to do it.
And at that time, we were really growing. We were really sounding good. We had a good vibe to us. And then the next thing you know, we were approached by another guy, Phil Lovelace, who played with Ocean Boulevard for a very long time. Well, Phil Lovelace wanted to be a part of it, so there we go. We got Phyllis all noticed. So then we had a really good saxophone player, really good guitarist.
Right.
John Floyd, he was Keith Sweat's musician studio bass player.
Okay.
And he just happened to get hurt during this time frame, and I met him in my front yard, and we had no idea each other were musicians until we started talking. And then the next thing you know, John Floyd was my bass player. So we had a really, really, really strong band, excluding myself. I was the weak link. But I'm telling you, I surrounded myself by really, really good musicians, and that's
the
what
whole
made
key.
us good.
Yeah, that's the key.
Next, I tried to bring in a full horn section. So I ran into Jackson Martin, and I was playing uptown at Broad River on their open mic nights. And what I was doing, I would go up there on Wednesday nights and play open mic and tell all these college kids about our band.
Right.
Well,
That's pretty sharp. And that way you could get them to come out here.
So every time we would get up and play near here, we'd always have a really good crowd, never had any problems. And we actually started moving around and traveling some, and then next thing you know, they're following us. So
Right.
Things were really good, and couldn't complain. Well, Jackson and Phil, anytime you got two lead saxophone players in a band, there was kind of friction. And I'll tell you a short story. We were playing a festival out at South Mountain Campground that was owned by Gary Lale, the lawyer, and he had a pavilion out there, and he used to throw festivals all the time. Well, we met up there, and we were playing this festival, and it's kind of funny, but it's about 2:00 in the morning, and we were, the headline act, and we were supposed to play last. Well, Phil's looking at me, and he's Mike, and at the time, Phil was getting up in his 60s, if I'm not mistaken. And you could tell it was taking a toll on him, staying out late at night, because some of those places in South Carolina near the coast, wherever you're staying up till 5 o'clock in the morning, But that night, I could tell it in his eyes, and it was a pretty crazy, wild crowd. There were a bunch of people there. They were all over the yard, everywhere, all over the field. A bunch of hippies. We were all having fun, and he wasn't really down. He didn't really dig it, and he looked at me. And he's like, I feel like I'm battling with Jackson. You guys are young. Y'all are doing good. Why don't you just let me retire and let Jackson?
Sure.
And there was a little bit of conflict.
There.
There was a little bit of conflict at first, but once we talked about it and he understood, and Phil's the type of player. He's a perfectionist, man, and he is. You ever listen to him play, he don't miss a lick, and the man is a phenomenal musician.
He is.
So he you got two guys like that are battling each other. It's all kind of, well, the next thing we'll move on down the road. We were doing real good. We were on Ace and TJ's morning show a couple times, and they were playing our CDs on the radio and stuff, and we got hooked up that night. That Philip told me this at South Mountain is the night that I met Steve Metcalf, who was with Little King Records.
Sure, I used to be on his label.
He come up and he's, hey man, we'll do this, we'll do that, and I didn't even know the guy. And
right.
I'm like, yeah, that's fine. And so we made some kind of a deal with him, and we went on about our business. Well, anyway, I'll fast forward it some. We're playing a show one night, and I was sitting on stage, and Jackson was beside me, and I heard his voice saying, hey, you need to stop playing for these people. And it was just as clear as day. And I kind of stopped what I was doing. It was during the middle of a song. Smack in the middle of a song, right after a verse, right before a chorus. So it was almost chorus time. And all of a sudden I heard it again, and it was just plain as day. He's like, you don't need to play for these people anymore. Well, I stopped, and I kind of turned around, and I looked at Jackson, and I was like, what's going on, man? He's like, I don't know. I was like, dude, I could have swore the Lord just told me. He's like, the Lord? Because at the time I didn't go to church, didn't have nothing to do with church. Right before that, we were on Channel 9 morning show with Jack and Kimberly live on TV. We were playing a show live. Like this was like right at the build-up. So this was like a couple of days after this. Like we literally were on live television, and this happened. And it was kind of all wild how it worked out. But it's like, you just got to stop. And I just turned around. I'm like, I looked at the guys, and I'm like, guys, this is my last show. And they're all like dumbfounded because we had 32 I would say, no, it wasn't 32, it was 22. We had 22 shows booked right there at that moment in time. And it was all an uproar, everybody's going crazy. And they're, kind of like, what are we, this ain't right, we got to figure out something. But in the back of my mind, I kind of knew, I knew what was going on. So I told the guys, there was a very good, very big sense of peace over me. And this was right at that time. And I'm like, guys, don't worry about it. We'll find you another singer. We'll talk to somebody else and we'll get you a singer, no problem. You'll finish these shows out and you'll figure it out. Well, right before then, we were kind of doing a country thing where we were doing a bunch of Alabama and stuff like that.
Right.
And so we got up a little thing called Potter's Clay Project, and that was the country part of it.
Yeah, the spin-off of it.
Yeah, the spin-off of it. So Potter's Clay, they brought in this guy from David Lee or somebody like that from, I can't remember his name, from Charitable. The dude could really sing. He had a really good country sound to him. So they were set. They wasn't really doing any Common Collective stuff anymore because that guy didn't really know it. Plus, it was all my music anyway.
Exactly.
So that just kind of dwindled on. Well, getting back to that night when the Lord was talking to me, so I get in the car and I'm riding down the road and I'm crying, trying to figure out, what's going on. And all of a sudden, he starts talking to me again. He's like, listen, you've been putting on festivals for a couple of years now. You know what's going on and how to do it and I thought about it for a second, and we have. Allen Acres Festival we had been putting on out at Thad Allen's land for years, and just we had vendors come out, we pulled trailers together, we built a stage, and we did it up and did it every year and raised money, and I was thinking to myself, I'm like, yeah, you're right, Lord. He's like, yeah, I'm right. You know what to do, just do it. I want you to start doing this for me. And as soon as he said that, man, it just broke me down. I was like, I can't believe, all the things that I've done and all the stuff that I've, thinking I'm trying to blow my head up, because anytime you're a musician and you're trying to make it, just like anybody else, you're always positive about yourself. You are. A lot of times you can get cocky. And
most of the time you can get cocky.
The Lord can bring you down to your knees in a split second. I've met so many musicians out there that just would talk, and then when you get them on that stage, they were not the talk they were.
True.
So there's always a fine line, but this is the kind of pretty cool part. So after we had this conversation, I started going to church. And when I say I'm going to church, I prayed about this and knew that I needed to go to a church that needed some kind of help with music.
Right.
Well, next thing you know, I go to Pleasant Hill, I go to Faith Baptist, I go to Bethel Baptist, I go to all these different churches around here. And every church I go to, they have a horn section and they got 3 bass players and keyboard players. They don't need anybody.
Right.
Well, I walk in Mount Sinai and I'm sitting there, and after the lesson or the preaching, Tim, the preacher, comes up to me. He's like, hey, what's going on? What you doing down here? And I first thought to myself, why would a preacher ask you what you doing down here? So I looked up at him. I said, actually, man, I need to play some music for the Lord, and I don't know where to go, and I don't know how to start. And I said, I need help. He said, it's funny you said that. He's like, you walk in that room over there, and you might get you an answer. I said, huh? What are you talking about? It's like, go over there and walk in that room over there. So I got up and walked in the room, and sure enough, there were 3 kids there, and a bass player, a guitar player, and a drummer. And they were sitting there trying to figure out what they were going to do because their lead singer had quit. So when I walked in, the bass player knew who I was. He's like, hey, man, you're Mike Common Collective, blah, blah, blah. He said, what are you doing here? I'm like, I'm here to play some music with you. He said, all right. So we started that, and it was Sons of Sinai. Wrote a bunch of music.
Who was in that? Who were the kids?
This was Alex and Dustin Smith, and then Clary, and I can't remember the other girl's name. I'm sorry, but they ended up getting married and moving off.
Okay.
And going somewhere else, and it's been a few years.
Right.
Well, since that time, the whole Sons of Sinai has been kind of on mute, let's
Right.
just say, or paused. Well, in the background, I've been writing music continuously,
Right.
and it's all been contemporary worship
Right.
continuously. Well, after 4 CDs, after being on TV, after doing all that stuff, playing thousands of shows, and I'm not even exaggerating when I say that. We were booked every day, every week, 4 days a
Yeah,
week for
I
years,
understand.
and played shows and shows and shows and shows. And when I first got the taste of just playing worship music for the Lord, I could tell the difference and the reason why He wanted me to do that. Here we are now. I was thinking a few months ago of getting the band Common Collective back together and redoing things and playing music. Now this was just in the back of my head.
Right.
Well, all of a sudden, talked to Chris down here at Pleasant City, and he's like,
Yeah.
"Oh, there's a zombie bar crawl, man. We'd love for you to play, blah, blah, blah. Y'all bro, come up here, we'll have a crowd, blah, 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 blah. I'd love to have you, blah, blah, blah." So I'm sitting there thinking to myself, this might be all right. And I had one of the guys call me, and he's like, "Man, are we really going to go up there and play, man? You sure?" And I'm like, and I thought to myself, and then all of a sudden the Lord he's like, "Wait a minute." He's like, "Why in the world would I take you away from all of that, break you down, just so you could turn around a few years later and run right back to it?"
Right.
So I was like, "You know what, Lord, you're right." And I stopped and I prayed about it. The next thing you know, he's like, "You get that band together, but you get them and you get your music together." And that's all it was said. And I knew, and I heard what he said, and I kept it with that. Well, I'm praying every day. Week goes by, and me and the kids are coming back from the church, and I stop at Bojangles right there off of 74.
Yeah.
And I overhear this guy and this girl talking about this recording that they just finished up. And both of them looked, dressed up well, nice, and you knew what they were talking about. You knew what they were talking about by the conversation.
Right.
So I was kind of slid over there being nosy, and I was like, "You guys are into music?" And he's like, "Yeah, man, I'm a producer." I was like, "A producer?" He's like, "Yeah, man." I said, "Really?" He said, "Yeah." I said, "You got a studio and stuff?" He's like, Yeah, out in Cherryville, man. He's like, "Are you a musician?" I was like, "Yeah, man, I've been a musician for a long time." I said, "I'm actually thinking about recording some music with my old band."
Mm-hmm.
He's like, "What?" I said, "Yeah, give me your card." So he gave me his card. Well, he didn't think nothing of it, but I knew what the plan was. A couple months later, I called him up and I said, "Hey, man," I said, "You remember me?" He's like, Yeah. I said, I sent him some links to our old music.
Right.
And he called back. He's like, "Dude, I'm in. What are you doing now? What are you doing?" I was like, "Well," I said, it's contemporary worship music, man." I said, "It's a little bit different." I said, "But, this is what I want to do." And he's, "Oh my goodness, man, I'm all in." So David Hallman is who we're working with. It's Hallman Productions, and that's he's doing a really good job. We're actually in the studio right now. So we're taking this in a little bit different stride, because number one, the goal of all this is to hopefully, if it's the Lord's will, that whoever hears this music, somebody out there, we're hoping that it draws them closer to the Lord.
Yeah.
That's what it's all about. It's not about money. It's not about nothing else. That's all it is. So we're doing things differently. After we get this recording finished up, which should be in the next few weeks, so, we get everything mixed up, we're doing videos for everything. So we're going to slowly bring out one video at a time
Right.
into the social media world and into YouTube and all this. And we're going to get that exposure at the beginning. And then everything else in the background, I'm going to have somebody pushing out all these CDs to worship services,
Right.
worship radios, all these other stuff. And while in the background, we continue to push out these videos, maybe
Right.
something will happen. Maybe somebody will get saved. I mean, that's what
That's
it's all
great.
about.
That's a wonderful thing.
But that's what the goal is right now. And with everybody that we brought back, it's the original band except the drummer. And the drummer, we brought in a different guy who is Michael Blair, and he's from Gastonia. He's a young guy. He's about 26 years old, but he was in the same field as Vince McClooney because he also grew up in a church playing drums when he was 5 years old.
Gotcha.
So the kid can jam. John Floyd is back on bass. Stephen Petit is on lead guitar. Jackson Martin is going to be playing the saxophone and the fiddle. Me, I'm playing, singing, and playing my acoustic guitar. And then Hannah Hall, she is the other girl that was in Sons of Cyanide.
Okay. Yeah.
She is going to be the mandolin player and the backup vocal on this new CD. But other than that, that's where we're at right now. So I'm hoping that, we get finished up pretty soon. I don't want to rush it, but we've already got the video stuff lined up and everything's ready to roll. So it's just a matter of time, just leaving it in the Lord's hands, let Him work.
All right, I'm back with Mike, and we're talking songwriting. So you've got a new project coming out, faith-based Christian music.
Yep.
How is writing the songs different than, say, writing them for something like Common Collective?
Well,
is the inspiration?
It's a lot different. It's a lot different, yeah, of course, because when you're writing something for, I'm just going to be like worldly view.
Right.
When in that worldly view, what I mean by that is things that attract us in this world, and that's how music is written.
True.
And that's how it draws people in.
It is.
So when you're writing something for a common collective, it's more geared towards having fun, partying.
It is.
Women, whatever turns that same crowd and invites them into
Right.
that. When you're writing for the Lord, it's a little bit different. It's a lot more challenging. And the reason why I say that is, and I will honestly say this, as far as lyrical music, folk, country, rap, blah, 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 whatever, Christian music is the hardest to write for. There's no doubt in my mind. And the reason why is because with Christianity, you have one subject.
Yeah, you do.
With everything else, you have every other subject under the planet. But when you're writing music for the Lord, you have one subject. Now, can you incorporate people's lives, a story about somebody? Yes, you can. But in the end, the song is still about Jesus, or it's got the Lord in
Right.
something. It all rotates around the Lord. So it is very hard to write contemporary Christian worship, because with that being that one subject out there, there are a lot of musicians,
Who have for a
writing
long
music
time.
that have wrote music for years and years and years and years and years about that same
True.
subject. So you don't want to sound like anybody else. Of course, I don't when I'm trying to be original.
Right.
So there is a fine line. I've caught myself so many times, man, sitting there writing something and be halfway done with the song, and sit it down, and then all of a sudden lay down, and then in the middle of the night I'll wake up and I'll be like, "Dadgummit, that was a Crosby, Stills and Nash song back in the day."
Well, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do. Yes, I do.
You can't. I mean, it's so hard to Christianity. But I tell you this: yes, it's hard. Yes, it's challenging. But there is a peace about it, because the way I do it, I mean, I'm sure most of them do, but you really pray hard about the song and praying that, this song is glorifying Him, and you're not taking any of the praise whatsoever, and all the praise goes to Him, and you need Him to bring you these words to make sure this song glorifies Him and His kingdom. 9 times out of 10, they come out.
Is it more satisfying?
It's I tell you what, I tell you about satisfying. It's more satisfying than anything that I've ever done in my entire life. I've always known, my uncle was the lead guitarist for Bounty Hunters, and they were a Southern rock group that used to open up for Skinner back in the day.
I remember.
So when they played in Charlotte, I grew up poor in the projects at Stanley Square Apartments. They would pull up in this tour bus, and when they pull up in this tour bus, all these apartment kids would run out and start jumping.
I'm sure they would. Yeah.
Well, I'll never forget when I was about 5 years old. He bought me one of those Snoopy record players.
Yeah.
Well, along with that, Van Halen Jump, a couple of other ones, but Van Halen Jump was that album. That was what turned me on to rock and roll.
Right.
Basically. So I would listen to that album on that record player, and they would literally cut up their T-shirts and tour shirts and wrap them around me on my arms and my head.
That's pretty cool.
And dress me up like a rock and roll guy.
Yeah, that's pretty
and,
cool.
Take pictures of me with the band and all this other stuff. And literally, they would be 6 guys that would come in and chill in our 2-bedroom apartment. They would stay half the day. They wouldn't spend a night or nothing.
Right.
But they would literally go outside on their bus and spend the night in the bus.
That's too cool.
I remember being a kid and going up in there and actually staying a night a couple times in the bus with them. And that's what the music, I believe, is where it all started, was when I was 5. But I didn't touch anything,
Right.
didn't sing nothing until I was 25 years old.
That's crazy.
And then, like I say, the next thing you know, here we are. But
You and Scott Moss are 2 of the really fine musicians that I know that had late starts.
Yeah, both of us had late starts.
Yep.
He didn't mess with nothing either.
I
when
know
in
he was
school.
25, and he's done the show, and he was a late starter too.
Yep, he sure was.
Well, now does you think the Lord helps you write these songs? You
Oh,
think
yeah, no
He's
doubt
putting you
about
on
it.
your own now?
No, there ain't no doubt about it. Ain't no way in this world I can do it without him. I just give you an example, and this is just how it works. So we've got this brand new song that I just finished doing my main vocals on. It's called Yes Indeed, but it's on this new song, on this new CD. Well, forever, it was written, I wrote it on a keys.
Yeah.
And every time I write music on keys, if I'm not playing on the keys, it's hard for me to find the key because I'm not playing my guitar
exactly.
on my vocal.
Right.
So it's, I was battling it for a good week, and then finally, man, I was taking a shower one night. Right before I got in the shower, I went and opened the shower door, and I remember about an hour before that, I was praying and said, Lord, you got to help me with this, man. I said, I can't figure out this key. I mean, I've got the words. I just need to know how you want me to come in.
Exactly.
And then all of a sudden, man, I opened that shower door and it was bam. It was hit me. And as soon as it hit me, my phone, it was 12 o'clock in the morning. And my phone was laying on the sink, and I ran over there and grabbed it. And I hit record, and I started wailing out.
Right.
Jennifer, my wife, she's like, "What are you doing?" I said, don't even try it. I said, I got this key. I said, I'm going to keep it. I said, I got to record this right now or I'm going to forget it. She's like, I can't believe you. It's 12 o'clock in the morning. I said, I don't care.
Yeah, I do.
I don't care. I said, I got to do it right now. She's like, all right. But yeah, it's without him, without his inspiration, there ain't no way in this world I could ever write the music for him, because you want to make sure. That's a big deal.
Yeah, it's a big deal.
I mean, people don't realize that. I mean, if this music is made and it's written for, hopefully somebody hears it and hopefully draws them closer to the Lord, and somebody gets saved, it's important stuff.
It is.
So
I can see that.
You have to make sure that, all your I's and dotted and T's are crossed, because if you glimpse of that worldly view one time with the music that you're trying to do, especially to try to keep it on the Christianity side, people judge very quickly. And people that are old school Christians that are just, when I say old school Christians, I mean like straight hymnals. They don't really like contemporary worship at all. To them, a lot of the contemporary worship music does sound like worldly music.
True.
But so there's that fine line in those words you have to use. You have to be cautious. And it's funny how the Lord tells us that in James 3. He tells us that the tongue is the deadliest weapon on us, because you can just say one thing and turn somebody's mind
True,
around.
you can.
So that's very important.
Positively and negatively.
Positively and negatively. That is correct.
So, well, it's do you ever miss the stage, the big stage?
I do not miss the big stage, and the reason why is because I guess I know that. Well, I'm not going to say this. I've already been there, done that.
Yeah, but a lot of that does help.
So I can't say that I do miss it. I can get up in front of a church anytime and play music. And what's so funny, and I'll just give you an example. In this world that we live in, especially in this music world, bands are a dime a dozen. And in this area that we're in, they're not a dime a dozen.
No, and they're good.
And they're really good. So when you go to places, Asheville, Nashville, Charlotte, you get outside of this area, you run into where you've got 20, 30 garage bands who are kids that just joined and been playing for a couple of days. And they're out there trying to get exposure, so they're trying to play anywhere and everywhere for basically nothing.
Right.
When you're in that music world, you're competing with those guys.
You are.
Sammy and them, they're going to play all AC/DC covers all night long, and you got a bunch of bikers that happen to love AC/DC. They're going to pay Jimmy Joe $200 more than they're going to pay you $2,000.
True.
So it's you have to. When you're trying to make it for a living playing music, you have to be very, very smart.
You do.
But when it comes to contemporary worship, this is just how the Lord works. I mean, the very first time, so people will call me when worship leaders are sick or something like that, and they need help. They want somebody to come in and play a couple songs for them, whatever. And I've done that a bunch of times. Well, the first time that I've ever done it, I walked in. It was Macedonia Baptist Church in Kings Mountain, and Pastor Mike Horn, he called me up. He's like, "Man, we'd like you to come." He heard me record some stuff on Facebook. He's like, "We'd like you to come play some music and talk to us a little bit." Well, I went in, played 2 or 3 songs, talked to him for a few minutes, and I'm walking out the door. Literally 15 minutes worth of work, and when I say work, I mean playing the guitar work. 15 minutes. He looks at me and he hands me a check and he puts it in my pocket, and I didn't think nothing about it. And I start walking out the door and I look at that door. I said, "No," I said, "You're not giving me this money." And I walked back in there and I handed him that money. He said, "No." He said, "Mike," he said, this money is for you." He said, "The church believes in what you're doing, and with you believing in what you're doing, they want to try to help you with resources and stuff." I'm like, "Mike, I got a day job. I got money. I ain't worried about that." I said, "You take that and put it in your offering plate and you give it to somebody that needs it." Right. "Oh, no. You get it, give it." Well, I was like, whatever. I didn't even read the check. So I get on home and he slides it back in my pocket. I get on home, take it out. Check was $500. I was in there for 15 minutes. And I called him back and I said, "Mike," I said, you don't, he's like, "You don't understand." He's like, your songs were really good. Your message was good. He said, you might have changed somebody this morning, man. You don't even know it." And I said, "No," I said, "It ain't me, dude." I said, I'm doing what the Lord's want me to do." And he's like, "Dude, you need to," he's like, "A
vessel."
Yeah, he's like, you need to take that money. Don't worry about it." Well, I tell you what I did. I took it over here and gave it to the Abuse Prevention Council. And
that's good.
All of the money that we ever raised for Children's Keeper Festival,
right,
always went to Abuse Prevention Council.
That's a great place for it to go, and there's never enough money there.
Kathy Robinson over there, she's a really good girl, and she tells me I can write them off for taxes and all that other stuff, but I don't really care about that. It's more of I feel better when I try to do for the kids and try to do for homeless people. I always have been.
That's good. That's a good mission in life.
I tell you, if you take care of people, the Lord will take care of you, and that's just the way it goes.
I now believe that wholeheartedly.
That's the truth. It took me a long time to realize that, but I'm almost 40 years old, and I've never seen it more in my life. And the better you are to people, sometimes you get smacked on, and sometimes you get dabbed and
you
shot
do. It happens,
and everything else. But I tell you, the Lord sees what you do, and not saying you can get your way into heaven like that, not at all. But it's more of it makes me feel more successful when I do stuff for the Lord.
Yeah, I understand.
No doubt in my mind.
I do understand that. Well, I'll tell you what, I do appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule to let
not a problem, man.
to share not only your musical journey, but your mission in life.
Yeah, it's a new one, that's for sure.
Well, and I'm proud of it and proud to know you.
Cool.
Thank you for being on here.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.